to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool, I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It's a science thing. This is a science place. It's a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It's time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Oh. Spoilers. Episode 406. We're considering getting in focus eventually too, of this very show, and I'm very, very excited to be bringing back a returning guest as well as a new guest, the lovely folks in Kino Motel, and it should be a very good time. Before we do that, let's get into it. Welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I'm your host, Conan Neutron. I am a rock and roll lifer who's been touring and recorded for 24 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 406. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, our archives of it are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at ProtonicReversal.com. And if you want to support the show, you get episodes sooner, you can do so for $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal. If you like the show, even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, or even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show. It beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. It's also just a darn nice thing to do. So there you go. So who do we have coming up? We have Kino Motel, and I'm very excited to have them. This is a band that features one former guest and one new guest, one friend from ways back, and a new friend, both Ed and Rosa. And here they are with me right now. Welcome, folks.
Hi.
G'day.
It's like next Thursday at like 5 p.m. or something where you're at or something, right? Yeah. So.
We're in the future.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm very adamant, but always, whenever possible, doing my normal time and my normal, the same crap I've been doing for over a decade, right? But obviously for not even transatlantic, trans-global calls such as this, right? I mean, it's you gotta regulate a little bit to figure it out. Time zones, daylight savings time, it's a bane of my existence in general, but also for this show specifically. Just not a fan. I just wanted to stay the same. But yeah, so Ed, you've been on this show. It was 2020. I think it was October of 2020. And it was episode 204. So that's a pretty good 202 episode stretch. And my recollection is that Kino Motel was a thing then, but you didn't talk about it at all. Like even once for like 1 second.
Yeah.
But I think Rosa, I think you were playing guitar in the background maybe or something along those lines. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's wild. And my reason and rationale for getting into that level of granularity and nerdery, if you will, is to say, when did Kino Motel become a thing?
Yeah, so 2019, we started writing songs, and we were both living in Berlin at the time. And then we moved to Australia start of 2020 and had all the time in the world during the pandemic, during the lockdowns and stuff in Melbourne. We had all our work cancelled all our tours and all that stuff like everyone else, I guess. So that's 2020 is when we sort of launched it, I guess. Put a single out, put a video out.
Yeah, time sort of stretched and stood still. So it's hard to get a kind of feel for how long we've been a band. It's just like we properly got going in that weird vortex.
2 weeks or 20 years, either one works. It's like both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them seem, just exactly as likely.
Exactly.
Well, and I bring it up because when I first heard Kino Motel, it came across very authoritative. Like you had something very much figured out. Like I love the beach goth description is lovely, by the way. That's like, oh, lovely. That's perfect.
Jeez.
Got it in two. What does this band sound like? They're beach goths. Oh, all right, great, got it. But you two, you play very well together. It seems like you have a very natural musical lexicon between the two of you. It seems very not light or breezy necessarily, but it seems very settled in a way that I think comes from people just knowing each other really well as people or players. So did you have the conceit of the sound in mind ahead of time, or was it just more like, let's try some stuff and see how it all shakes out?
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of let's meet in the middle. I was a fan of what Rosa was doing in her band previously, and I think Rosa liked what I was doing with Heads.
I did.
No pressure.
But they were very, very different projects. Like Heads was quite abrasive and noisy and stuff, and the band Rosa was in was really melodic and I guess sweet in a way that Heads wasn't. And I think that the original idea with Kino Motel was to meet in the middle and have that sort of roughness and abrasiveness meet the melodic songwriting. Yeah. Not everything's gloomy kind of.
Kind of like kind of add the thing that the other one doesn't necessarily instinctively do.
Sure.
Because we were listening to a bunch of music together that we were both super into, and then we were kind of like, it was often a little bit between what we were both doing, like something a little dissonant, but also kind of like Soons and bands like that have like dissonance and still pretty like fun hooks and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Like having a sort of a pop sensibility to it, but a little bit of an edge at the same time.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, when Eddie said my band was sweet, I'm like,
I was going to ask if you agreed with that characterization, but yeah.
No, yes. When I am being reasonable, I'd say that's fair. And also Eddie's like, I wrote this like super poppy song, and I hear it, I'm like, whoa. I don't know if anyone else would consider that pop.
Right, because you have your own internal metrics of what you think. I've done the same thing, right? Where I've been like, oh, this is like radio rock, and people are like, what are you talking about? No, it's not.
I cannot discern a single chord that I've ever heard of before in this music.
Right.
A pop song.
Well,
so yeah, we kind of like balance each other in that way.
Yeah. So it's a way of kind of meeting in the middle, like you said. It creates something that's different from maybe the individual constituent parts of the people involved previously. So you're kind of exploring some new territory in your own way, and kind of hopefully enjoying yourselves, like making something new, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Kind of the point of being in a band, I guess.
Ideally, I mean, sometimes you gotta wonder, right? But I do anyway.
At this point in my life, I've realized that I'm not ever actually going to make any money from music. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
should probably enjoy it.
Exactly. Like that's where we're at now. We're like, all right, this isn't really a moneymaker, so we're just gonna enjoy ourselves and do what we
Right. Sure.
think is fun. Yeah.
So Waves again, I mentioned as October 2020. Waves comes out like that week or something along those lines, and that's the first one coming in, and then you have a Simple Desire right after that. Did you two write a bunch of stuff and kind of stockpile it, or are you winnowing things down during this process? Like, where are you at with the act of creation? Like, how wholly in synchrosect are the museum objects, or is it just all going down the river?
The first bunch of songs we wrote and recorded 5 songs, and then stockpiled them, and released them as singles one after the other, because we also taught ourselves how to mix and produce music in lockdown. So I'd never done any of that. Rosa had never really done any of that. So we mixed it all ourselves and made the videos ourselves and did all this stuff that was just like, oh, we have all this time, we have no money, but we have time. So
yeah, we both learned how to use the software, and then at some point, after 20 minutes, I'd be like, I'm feeling hungry, and Eddie would be 5 hours later still honing in on the sound,
grinding in on it. Yeah.
he took to it a little more naturally, I would say, in terms of just focusing for insane amount of hours on, which is good for an engineer, I think. So
it's almost a requirement, I would say. Yeah.
I would say so too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's so, Ed, I know when we talked last time, we talked about you kind of starting later in life than some folks for being in a band, let alone in the band you wanted to be in, but just in music in general, which I think is kind of interesting because I think you come at it from a very different place. Rosa, I was wondering, what's your pathway into music? Have you been in bands for a long time, or?
Not at all. I actually grew up singing in folk choirs and going to folk festivals and singing sea shanties to people with beards since the age of 15.
Well, if you're gonna sing sea shanties, you may as well sing them with folks with beards. That's all I gotta say.
Hey, they're some of the best people.
Yeah, they seem very jolly about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So look at some of the misery of some of the I played a plenty of people with beards. And they don't look very jolly at all. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, when they're
Conan and the Secret Friends on tour next month, everybody. No, so you're coming from a perspective of musicality, but not this genre specifically. You're coming at it from
not being in bands, so being in doing a lot of singing, but not being.
How about writing?
Have you setting?
Have you done? Did
Yes,
you do
writing for sure?
Okay. Yeah.
Being a very awkward kid, basically, and just sitting in the locker rooms and writing songs instead of making friends. That's my journey.
And maybe I get the details wrong, but is it right that you started playing in bands at 21, 22 and learned to play bass at 22?
That's right. Yeah. That's correct. I was I actually just met some circus people, and they lived in Berlin and had this circus basement. And I was I'm sorry, Mom. I think I'm about to go there.
I think I'm about to join the circus. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was I think I just really feel like doing this. And then I was Anna, I don't think I can get a job anyway, so I'm just going to go do this thing. And then I went to...
Sounds like a Vin Vendors movie.
Yeah. It's a good place to be. Yeah. Slightly like worse outfits, maybe the real life. But
didn't have the same production design budget, so
no. Yeah, so worse aesthetic choices, but similar vibe. And ended up in Berlin learning the bass and just writing loads of songs and having like a €60 a month rent and just like not having to really do very much except for make stuff. Yeah, that's pretty good conditions for.
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm blown away by how often musical stories can come with that as part of it, which is the fact, just if you aren't constantly having to hustle just to like make ends meet, then it turns out that's better for creativity than, adversity and depression.
Yeah.
Who knew?
So true. So true. Yeah. It's like those moments, like sometimes those suffering stories get kind of glorified, but if you look at when people actually come out with a bunch of work or get really good at what they're doing, I mean, I don't want to relate that to me making weird stuff in my room in Berlin, but like if you look at other people's stories, the time when that flourishes is often when they do have some kind of stability and like safety net and just like time, right?
I'm glad I had this show because when COVID hit, again, laid off from the job, tour canceled, et cetera, just staring at the wall. And I was, in retrospect, I realized this now, I was just too angry to write music. I was too angry and mad and depressed and, any number of things. So I was able still to do this. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm angry to do this show. But, like, it took me about 4 months for I was like, maybe I'm just done being able to write songs. Maybe that's just over. Who knows? I guess it was a good run. And then when I had like a little bit of stability and just, absence of anxiety, if not joy, then I was like, came right back. And I was like, But there is something to be said just for the mechanics of that, right? Just not having to be like, okay, what am I going to sell to pay the power bill or something along those lines, right? That's the parable of adversity being like the mother of creation. Sorry, must be written by rich people. People with trust funds probably said that.
Well, or it might apply to like inventing like a wheel or something, but not necessarily to like making like art.
I mean, from personal experience, I think I can say that I draw inspiration from periods of my life that are difficult.
Right.
But I usually write about it later when I'm feeling good or something, like when I'm going through a really difficult time, I'm not sitting down crying with a guitar writing the song. It's
can't make the chord through the tears. Exactly.
I'm just going through the difficult thing as best I can. But I definitely use that as inspiration later on.
It comes later, when you've sort of, or like you've started to digest it a little bit or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's key. So when did you two meet, like as humans, first? Like when was that?
2016, I think.
Yeah, 2016.
2016 in Berlin. Yeah.
Part of like a bit of a forest cult, actually. We met actually in the forest cult in
East Germany. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
That sounds like it. It sounds very mysterious, but okay. So, and did the idea of playing music together, was that something that kind of came along a little bit later, or was that something that was kind of like kicking around?
Definitely later, yeah. I mean, I saw Rosa perform a few times and was definitely impressed. So I probably had it in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I was like, this is cool, this is inspiring when I saw Eddie, but I was like, we're kind of worlds apart. I can't really, it's not like, it wasn't immediately in my head like, we should play a gig together, because I was like, this is so far from what I'm doing. We're playing in such different venues and stuff.
They don't even have any sea shanties. Exactly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, sometimes got a little sea shanty.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little little bit.
It's in the title of the
As a
record.
man with a beard, I like to have the sea shanties sung to me.
Exactly. Yes,
It makes me happy.
No. Yeah, they usually sound more like authentic when you've got the beard yourself.
Yeah.
Like I was really trying my best, but you're meant to have a beard when you sing them too.
it's the law. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you see stockpile, you said like 4 or 5 songs, right, early on, and was the conceit of it, because again we're dealing with the lockdown situation, right? So it's like you two have the ability to work together just because you're around each other. But I know that you eventually did add in drums and percussion, like and other folks help. But how did all that transpire? Because you have to know you have a thing before you know if you want to add people to the thing. usually that's how it works. I don't know, call me crazy, but
Yeah.
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 Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I personally always wanted to. I always had it in my head that we would do it as a live band at some point.
Yeah, totally. I think it also came from like us both being really into touring and enjoying travel and like
right.
getting out there.
And you get to do it together. Great. Lovely. Awesome.
Exactly. It was kind of like, oh man, I was going to all these really cool places with my band at the time, and we weren't really getting on so well. And like, I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool if I was doing this with Eddie as well.
Yeah.
Like, it would be cool to put together like a band, and we're both constantly coming out with ideas in terms of it being like, how precious are you about it? I'd say not very. Like, we're pretty.
Right.
We're very not precious, I would say. Like, we just come out with ideas and then use bits we like, check out stuff we don't, and just like even put ideas in a folder together, and one person be like, oh, I'm into that, but I'm not into that. And then you're like, cool, let's do this then.
Right. So, the mechanics of it organizationally, right? Which is something that's so much easier to do now than it ever was before. Which tape is this on? Oh, okay, I don't know. But we're just like, oh yeah, which one was this? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. You can find it fairly easily. Maybe come back to things that didn't make a lot of sense at the time, and then oh, that's actually pretty good. Or like, there's now I have a thing that I can solve the problem of this and move on. But that's lovely to be able to have that. It's also good that again, not being too precious about stuff helps a lot in that kind of situation. Because if you can be sort of fearless and be like, all right, well, that didn't work, or I thought it was great, I don't know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some people can get hung up on that, and then that becomes a full stop moment. I think that a lot of acts can stifle their creativity by getting too hung up on the constituent parts of a song rather than like what actually the song is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I've learned over time. Exactly that. It's like the song should be bigger than the parts.
Ideally.
Yeah. And like, for me personally, like the song comes first before anything else.
Right.
It's like I might have a guitar part that I love, but if everyone else is like, no, that doesn't quite work, then I've learned not to be precious about that and just go, yeah, cool, done. Let's move on from that.
Yeah.
And even like in the songwriting and producing stage and mixing stage, just like deleting things and going, I'm only going to move forwards, just being like, that's not quite working, delete, it's out of my head, I'm forgetting about it, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
That's
really good.
And that's very hard to get to when you're starting off with it, because you're like, oh, no, everything is, I'm going to kill the structure of the house and the whole thing is going to collapse. No, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think especially for me in the early days of a project as well, like I'm just more precious about it because I'm like, everything has to be perfect. I want this to be the best thing ever. But as the project grows and develops, it gets easier, I think, to just relax and just let it.
Yeah, you know what it is, rather than like, I think it's this. It's like, oh no, this actually is this, which is that's a good line to cross.
It's like, yes, it's like being a teenager and being like, who am I?
Right.
And versus like being a bit older and being like, I don't care who I am.
I can't believe I spent so much time wondering who I was. It was pretty clear. I'm this person.
Yeah.
What's the problem? What are we doing here?
I sometimes struggle with not throwing everything away. So I'm a little trigger happy on the delete button. And I actually have to work harder to like actually keep things.
Interesting.
I'm like, I find it very refreshing and intoxicating to like chuck things out, delete them. It's like,
is this sparking joy? No, deleted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go a bit Marie Kondo on it.
Exactly.
Like sometimes.
Boy, I wish some bands would.
Sometimes Eddie's like, don't.
Undo.
Rosa paints as well, and like the sheer volume of painting that Rosa does as well, I think is representative of that style of songwriting. Like there's just we have piles and piles of paintings,
and like maybe 90% of it you're like, yeah, that's fine, I guess, whatever, and then like you have 10% like, okay, this is good. There's something here.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Like to write lyrics as well. I actually don't know how you do it. It's very mysterious. It's kind of fun to keep some things a little bit mysterious, but I write like 4 pages of some kind of rambling poem, and then there'll be like one line that I think is cool, and then that will live on.
That's the one. That's the keeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes you just need the one line, right? And then that can, absent of the context it came from, that can create a whole different universe in and of itself. You can kind of big bang it off of that. You only need one.
That's it.
Just repeat that one. It'll be
right.
good.
It's works great for some acts. Yeah. Sounds. I was like, oh, that must be so easy. Don't have to remember anything. Good. Sit over here stressing with like a napkin with some the first word written on it. Like, I don't even know what this means. There's still time to pull it from the set. Don't worry. No, well, that's interesting to me. Because that process, and again, you come from a place that I'm very familiar with, which is that you're making the recorded material first, and then presenting it live later. Now, if I remember correctly, you did a limited number of shows in 2021. Well, there was the live record that had the funny title. What was it?
Live and in person.
Live and in person, right? Which at the time was like, none of that was happening. So I was like, oh yeah, live and in person.
There was no one else there.
What a novelty! Yeah. I mean, that was great. I thought that was very clever. But then again, come from the place of and a lot of bands will come out the other way. They'll play the songs, they'll write the songs, they'll play the songs ad nauseum live until all joy has been sucked out of them, and then record them. And then like they sound great, and then then they never want to hear it again. But in this case, you're writing the songs and you're living with the songs on some level. But then when it comes to play the song, you have this finished recording that in a lot of cases has already been released to the world. And then you're thinking about the music that way. Well, how is this presented live? You're reverse engineering it that way. And I think that's interesting because I don't think there's a lot of bands that operate that way. So where there are challenges, especially, bringing someone else in too, of just like, hey, it's like this. Because I don't mean this in an insulting way, but I think with the kind of music you guys are operating in, you could do like programmed drums or drum machine or something. It'd be fine. It would work.
Yeah.
It's not like Led Zeppelin with a drum machine where it's like, what? What are you even doing? Why are you doing that? Actually, I say that aloud. That actually might be kind of rad, but in general, it's not done that way. But for the kind of thing, the kind of genre that y'all are operating out of, it seems like some people, they're perfectly fine just having like the sequence drums or whatever, and that seems to work well for them in some cases. Sometimes it works better than others, but in this case, you're taking songs that you've lived with in a digital format and you spend a lot of time with, and then released to the world. And then like, okay, now we have to present this live. How do we do this? How do we present this live? So was there a challenge to that? Was there a process to it? Was it just like, Jesus Christ, enough? Let's finally like do this in a room together. Like, what was the process for that?
There've been challenges, definitely.
It's normally like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah, that's step one. Is like, how?
Right.
Can we get away with doing this like 40-track recording with 3 people?
Yeah. You don't have 40
The
people,
process.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We've changed how we do it over the course of the last 3 years, doing shows and stuff. And we've kind of whittled it down now, finally in 2024, sort of to where it's working. But it was challenging, definitely in the beginning. One of the other kind of philosophies we have with this band is, for the live shows, we want to play with different people. So rather than having a set band and being like, okay, this is our drummer, this is our synth players, we want to just keep that door open.
Yeah.
So whoever wants to come in and play, it's a bit
You
more
never have to
fun.
say no. You could just figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's see who can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or so I
But
hear.
in the beginning, it was in the beginning it was challenging, and I've definitely had to learn also to let go and be like, it doesn't have to be perfect,
Right.
because I'm like writing these guitar lines where I'm like, I'm super happy with that guitar line. I want it to be played exactly like that, and then we do it live, and the guitarist doesn't do it exactly like that, and I'm like, really needs to be exactly like that. It's been hard for me.
You gotta let go.
To be like, it's cool. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. It's fine. It's fine.
Definitely
Sometimes it
helps
does,
with
though.
the
It
guitar.
does sometimes. But
Yeah.
not as many times as you probably think, but sometimes like, yeah, that does need to. But then sometimes it's like,
It
yeah,
helps when the guitarist needs to be a little bit perfectionist for it to work.
Yeah.
They have to be like a little bit.
Can't be too loose.
They have to like doing homework a little bit.
Yeah.
But with the drummer, it's a lot more about like getting the right vibe. And it's also been a real journey. Volume has been a huge journey for us as a band.
It's true.
Because I come from a like, I've never worn earplugs on stage. Like, and I was like, I can't hear anything. I can't hear myself. I don't even know what notes anyone's playing. Like, I don't get this.
I'm like,
what are we doing? How are we doing it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like, why are we playing music?
Ed's like,
with
no
earplugs
worries.
in our ears? Yeah. I'm like, everyone in this room is wearing earplugs. Why don't we just turn it down?
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
So we've also reached like a really nice middle ground now, I think, where we're both really feeling it.
Yeah.
Because Eddie's also kind of shown me a little bit how much energy there can be in volume.
The
And you need to,
physicality
like,
of feeling the sound. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But at the same time, like letting the music like sing and ring out in a way that's not oppressive and painful to the human body.
Right, exactly.
And because that's not the point of our band, is not to like hurt people.
Finding a happy middle ground on that too. I've gone from using a Fender Twin and a Vox and an orange OR120 with a cabinet, like dual amp. Now I use a Vox AC15 on stage.
Yeah.
So it's like just scale it down. Still feels good. Still sounds good. It's important.
Yeah, I think it's like we've kind of reached a sweet spot now, and so like where it feels really good, but there's heaps of energy, and there's like room to get big, and also room to like get kind of moody. Yeah.
Because I've definitely seen it both ways. Like I've seen it where bands are like, okay, I like it loud, but this is way too loud for like what you like. This is like where the ideal listening space is like outside, like in the like in the lobby or whatever. It's like, yeah, this is great. I can hear them just fine for the parking lot. And then also seen ones where it's like, oh, this is cool. I wish like it didn't like look like karaoke somehow. Like somehow it just doesn't feel like something important is happening because it's just people doinking around on a stage. All right, great. You know. Good for you. You're having a good time up there, I hope.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing where I'll find it hard to play with a drum machine because it feels to me like karaoke.
It's a little bit too samey. It doesn't have the excitement, right? Yeah.
I find it hard. Like I've seen other bands, like there's a German band called Gewalt that are really amazing, and they're using the drum machine, and it's not samey. It doesn't feel like karaoke, but I personally I don't know. They're also playing like really loud and it's energetic and screaming and stuff.
Like Austerity Program that's a good example of like, oh wow, yeah. There's just there's a bass player and a guitar player and the guy singing and it's freaking awesome. But it's also like, you know, they have a wall of nonsense behind them. It's just like pumping it out. It's so like you feel it in your gut, and a lot of it's composition wise too, because they're playing to the strengths of that rather than trying to make it sound like a live person, which it literally never will.
We've started using a sampler now, like an SPD pad.
Okay.
With like not exactly backing tracks, but almost like some synth elements and like
sound effects.
Yeah, sure.
So our drummers. We're sometimes playing to a click on stage, which is brand new. Or the drummer's playing to a click. We're just playing to the drummer. Yeah. This is all brand new for me, this idea of like backing tracks and clicks.
Not really a punk rock thing. No, not normally.
Nah.
Yeah.
I love it though. I love it. Like I feel like we can play as a 3-piece and we can add all these extra elements that would be frowned upon in some circles. But for us, it just means we can put on the show we want to put on, and in a way that we can afford to, because we can't afford to pay.
Right, you're not going to pay 20 people to go like do this big Brian Wilson showcase. You know, like that's
exactly
great. Sounds awesome, but who's going to transport them to where they need to be? But by the same token, especially when it's something like, oh, that's an important hook thing, but it's just this little thing that shows up there, and we notice it when it's not there. But you don't need somebody like doing that necessarily. You just like push the button and make the noise come out. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's been fun too. It's like an extra instrument, an extra element. And we've started writing for our new record, and we're writing with that in mind now.
Because you know you can do it, so you're going to utilize it in a different way, because it is all like it's a kind of a group of ideas that can be thought of as an instrument, because if any manner of noise or whatever, there's a sousaphone in here now, and like, okay, well, we don't have to move it, so that's the best part, because those things are heavy. Put a mellotron on. You're utilizing the technology, right? And that's, and I'm always psyched to see bands utilizing the technology in creative ways, because that's what it should be used for. Ideally, that's what it should be used for.
Yeah. And it kind of came up pretty organically, because the drummer that we're playing with a bunch here, who we absolutely love, he actually brought it up. He was like, oh, you could always put that sound on the SPD pad. I've got one. And then he kind of we just tried it out, and it was just awesome. Yeah. And so it kind of it didn't come up because we were like, let's do this, and we're going to, we kind of didn't have any big ideas about it. But every time we used it, we were like, oh, this is really making this more exciting, basically.
It gives it a depth maybe it wouldn't have. Right. Because, and again, it's because it's one thing, like minimalism is fine. Right, minimalism is great. Like a band like Suicide or something, where it's like, wow, it's literally just like a dude on a keyboard and a dude singing, and it's great. It's amazing, but not everything has to be that too. And to be able to utilize it as a creative, as a crayon in the crayon box, you know, like it's like you got a bigger crayon box that you can use, basically. Like it isn't just the 8 crayon box.
Yeah.
It also helps if
Yeah,
you're not like blaring loud too. Then you can, because there's also the thing if you're not like, rock band, drums, bass, guitar, singer. Like, sometimes you sound person, it's like showing a card trick to a dog. If you have like, oh no, this should actually be loud. This should be like the same level as this instrument. What?
Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah.
No, not like that at all. That's about a fifth what it should be. Make it so it's like painfully loud to you right now, and it will come out perfectly when we are playing. Huh? What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You sound like you've been here before.
Yeah. Or so I hear.
That is literally what Eddie said. He's like, he always says, this should be the same volume as every other instrument.
And they'll fight you every time.
And it's like, no, a little louder, a little louder.
No, a little bit. Just keep it going. Keep it going there, champ. But it is funny because if you're not at that like arena level, like there's just that battle because that's the problem with doing anything that's not something that the person in question sees every single day. And there's always these preconceived notions of what it is, sometimes based on like gear, like who knows what it is. But yeah, just that battle of like, no, we really need this to be louder. Like a lot louder, like a lot louder. Yeah.
We come at them with like vocal effects and things as well. We're cooking the brains of some local sound.
What is that thing?
Yeah. Some people are awesome. Most people are awesome. Some people are just like, what is this?
We're gonna give you a line out from this. Don't worry about it. We got it.
Exactly.
It's all you need. Just take this line and put it to wherever it's supposed to go, and your obligation is done. Huh?
Yeah.
Should I compress it? No. Don't do anything. Just take this line, put it into the PA, and turn it up loud.
And then they get into the show. It's like halfway through the show, and they're getting into it, and they're like, I can hear them adding delays and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they start doinking around with it. Yeah.
No. And they're like, no.
Yeah, we have this one song where there's this really kind of heavy, like pulsing bass synth through the SPD.
Sure.
And recently in France, we had like a lot of rhythmic delays on that. It was pretty wild.
You get a real-time dub remix. Yeah. Absolutely.
I didn't know what was going on.
Didn't know that's what we were setting out for, but here we are.
Yeah.
So you're able to make it work live. You got you put out the live and in-person record. Yeah, so you get it's like this is what it sounds like when there's other people playing it. This is a band. This isn't like just a bedroom project. Like there's kind of I feel like there's almost a stigma against that. Maybe rightly so, maybe not. Where it's just like it's not treated seriously unless it's like there's a flyer for it and it's this Tuesday, it's $6. Okay, great. At least in the punk rock world.
Yeah.
And then so after that, you start in. There's like fingerprints, right? There's like the repeater. What was the meet here, right? That's you have like two or three that like come in after that. That's when you start kind of bringing in drums, right? Like actual like actual drums.
Yeah. We around that time when we were putting out the first like run of singles was when we started writing the record, and we started rehearsing with a guy called Joel Penman here in Melbourne, really good drummer. And we started like writing the songs, but then jamming with him as a band and putting actual drums to the songs.
Does it make you think of the songs differently when you hear like live drumming with it versus doing it in like a demo form? I mean, because it always seems like it hits different. Like it's like, oh, I didn't expect that to be exciting, or that was exciting and now it is boring. you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Like not a bad way, just like being surprised by your own songs sometimes.
Definitely. Oh,
Maybe it's
and
just
realizing, yeah, I think one of the main things that kept happening was that we realized things were too busy once we tried to do them with real drums. So we were writing all these songs and adding like syncopated, let's syncopate the guitars off the bass, and then we'll add a synth, and there's going to be some percussion, and it's all syncopated. And then we do that, but there's a real basic demo drum or something behind it. And then we try and do that with actual drums, and it was like, oh, this is just
too complicated.
too much.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
Yeah.
So the main thing we were doing was getting together, jamming out the songs, and then simplifying everything.
Yeah.
So it's really the main thing.
And we've been lucky because we've been playing with really awesome drummers. And like Joel, for example, he's a real heavy drummer. He's like, he really loves heavy music.
Yeah.
But he's so like, and it was like pretty exciting for me because I hadn't played with very heavy drummers yet. But the level of like musicality and how much he like listened to everything in the song and like really listened to the vocals and he just really kind of got it on this other level. So it was like using all of that musicality and then trying to just like simplify things as well, just boil them down.
He's incredibly talented, and a lot of his favorite drumming is like the Mars Volta.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
And stuff. And so then, he's incredibly talented and he can play all this stuff. And then we're asking him like, hey, Joel, can you play that, but way less? Can you just play like this real simple, he's like, yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So props to Joel for like simplifying it.
That reminds me of something that Aaron from Red Fang said when he was on, that Brian Giles from Red Fang, of course, in the Great Last Juanitas, who I loved, and maybe 7 other people, but very complicated proggy band, like crazy, just like crazy time signatures. And they'd be like, yeah, that riff's great. Maybe drop the last 4 notes on there because we don't need them. And you'd be like, huh? And then like, then they have like, it's a rock riff now, like without all like the just nuttiness that, again, delighted people such as myself, which you will never make a fortune pleasing. But like suddenly you got something, that's like, there's pop sensibility to it, and people can, there's a pathway in.
And they became very successful.
Yeah, good on them too. Because it still's great. You know, the songwriting was lovely, and it was like, I did not expect, those guys to go hard rock, but they did so in a way without compromising anything of what they do, and they made something really neat. And it literally was just, take off those parts at the end. You don't need them.
Yeah.
Wow.
The power of removing things is huge.
Huge.
It's so huge.
And I think that's something also that comes from when you first start playing music. There's almost like anxiety. Oh, we got to add all this stuff to like make sure that we have the vision articulated, and we're gonna add this in here and add that and add this. And it's like, you don't need any of that. You can take most of that out. And sometimes it works. Don't get me wrong. There is a case for maximalism. Don't get me wrong, but oftentimes musicality can just come from having the awareness of when to not even dumb it down, but just like it doesn't need to go quite so hard at that part. Like it can settle down just a little bit, and that's going to be okay. Like no one's going to fall asleep. No one's going to slip into a coma if it calms down for a second. No, but I like because that's something I noticed with the record. Like the drums add a lot. Yeah, and sometimes you hear stuff that's like more or less, similar-ish to what Kino Motel's doing. And like, oh yeah, there are drums. Couldn't tell you anything they're doing, and it doesn't matter. But like, there's definitely like a good feel to it. Like it feels like someone who is being thoughtful about the compositions and doing, things to add to them and not distract from them. And it's great. Comes across awesomely, I think.
Yeah. You did a really good job.
Yeah. So good.
It was great.
Why don't we do this? So we're talking about the record visions, and I'm just gonna spring this on you because it's Saturday night. I don't care, but I've done this a lot with when folks come on with new records, and what it is we'll go through each of the songs on the record, and if you can just tell me a little bit about each song, like maybe like where the title came from, lyrics, compositions, this cool overdub part. I thought it was going to be this, and it turned out to be this, blah, 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 etc. Just tell me a little bit of context with each of the songs on the record and kind of give people a window into that.
Sure.
Yeah, it'd be really awkward if you said no, huh?
Super awkward. I'm really hoping I can remember like anecdotes about the.
Yeah. Well,
I actually have the record right here.
We'll find out together. I put it on the screen too, just for, which doesn't help that doesn't help the audio listeners even a little bit, but it's fine. So Visions, Kino Motel. Let's start off with Sleeper. Rosa, why don't you start us off with that? Tell us about Sleeper.
Oh boy.
I know that initially Rosa wrote this song to be a duet between the two of us.
That's right.
I was supposed to sing the low vocal and Rosa was supposed to sing the higher harmony, but I sort of cooked it and it didn't sound very good. Rosa sang both parts and it sounded way better.
Yeah.
I think we tried it. Like, I think I think the kind of harmonies were a little bit turbo. But please do expect more duets from us because I'm going to keep writing duets.
Yeah. I like it.
I love them. So I did actually write this as a duet for me and Eddie, and then it kind of sounded nice with these like twin vocals that really like slotted together and were equally loud and kind of did this weird close harmony thing. And I love harmonies. That's like my background in singing. Yeah.
Gotta have harmonies and sea shanties.
You got to have, that's true.
Otherwise, no one will be jolly.
That's so true.
Gotta have it.
You gotta have them. While people are getting rained on and they can't find fish.
Yeah, gotta be of good cheer. Gotta keep those spirits high.
I was also, with Sleeper, it was also watching a lot of really moody like movies about people on horseback and stuff. And kind of it was definitely written in the lockdown phases where we were watching heaps of good films about people riding on horses in the rain and going on journeys. Yes. Yeah. So it was kind of a soundtrack. Yeah.
No, I can hear that. It definitely has. I get tired of people using the word cinematic for like literally everything, but it definitely, it definitely has that vibe for sure.
We've already overused it for sure as well.
Right.
But
that's what we're going for.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's a raison d'etre, some might say.
Yeah, yes. And then I think I kind of started it, and then I showed Eddie it as like a first idea, and there was some parts he was like see what you can do with this section, like let's make it a bit more unexpected or whatever. And then together we also developed the like kind of psyche bit at the end, and now it's like one of my favorite moments as well.
I just kind of find that stuff kind of like indicative of like wide open spaces. You think of like obviously like the desert and stuff like that, where just like you get this like large expanse of like, whoa, wow, look at that. That's a lot of landscape.
That's definitely a big inspiration for us. Definitely.
Yeah. And I also lyrically, I was like, it kind of came up from, I think in October and November. I don't know if it's coded into my seasons as a European, but I always wake up early feeling kind of scared.
Interesting.
In the autumn, in a way that I really like. I don't know if this is really strange, but I feel this kind of weird, like almost like animal feeling in the autumn that like you got to get ready. Like you like kind of, I don't know what it is, but I kind of live off that in autumn. And this song kind of grew out of this really early morning kind of sense of fear and what that can give you.
Yeah, no, totally, because you're evoking a mood, right? You're evoking like this kind of like unease almost. You know,
yes, and like kind of the value of fear. It's got a lot of energy.
Nice. Good phrase. That's a good song title. Eddie, got anything to add on this one?
No, I'm just learning things. It's great. I had no idea that Rosa woke up.
See, there you go. It's worth your time already.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite months, actually.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't always wake up early naturally, so it's always a bit of a thrill. Extra couple of hours.
I trend nocturnal myself, so it's like, oh yeah, mornings. Forgot about those. When given the ability to do so, of course. Tell me about Disappears.
So this one I think this one's a good example of what happened when we let Joel let rip in the middle of the song. Mm-hmm. It was like, all right, there's this middle section which has a sort of, it's like drums and vocals bouncing off each other.
Right.
And it was like, all right, we want you just like drum solos, go for it in this section. And it's one of my favorite parts of the entire record where he just goes for it. And I get to go for it a bit vocally as well. And it's really fun to do live. I love the way it sounds on the record. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, it's such a good time.
Yeah, and this is the song that has this huge synth pulse, which felt really new.
Sure.
At the time as well, because I was just so used to playing rock music and punk music and stuff. So to be adding this like big techno-y pulsing sub thing to a song was like, is this weird? Like, should I do this? And then doing it just felt so good. And now that we've added that into a live show, it's like, it's one of my, if we're playing on a big stage especially, it's one of my favorite moments too, because this huge sub comes in and I just see the audience go like, whoa.
Yeah, they get it. Oh, yeah, it's kind of just whacks you over the head a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eddie also wrote the bass line for this one, and it's just like kind of the same thing the whole way through the song, and I love playing it. There's nothing more fun than playing a repetitive driving bass line on stage because you just don't have to think at all. Yeah. I have the best time.
Yeah, you can kind of almost go outside the music a little bit while you're doing it, right? It's
totally.
And as long as you don't wander too far off, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
No, there's something to be said for things like that, for moments like that. How about Repeater?
Repeater starts with a drum solo as well. So we thought we'd throw the two drum solos on the record together. And it was like, because we do work in minimalism to a degree, and we do simplify things, that also gives us the opportunity sometimes to be like, okay, now we're going to maximize stuff. And we're just going to, like certain sections, we're like, let's make this everything. So it begins with a drum solo, which is something I've never done in music before.
Yeah, it's a bold move.
And it's a bit ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah. It's almost like, what's the craziest thing that you can do? Well, why don't we start with the drum solo? Sure. Yeah,
Yes.
Sounds good. Let's go.
This song took on like multiple iterations as well. Like this is like the fourth or fifth version of the song.
Oh, interesting.
Went on the record in the end. Like initially it was completely different.
It's funny. It's one of those ones that seems like maybe more of it seems like a kind of simple song, but it had to go through some iterations to just let it be what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And not like try too hard, just let it be kind of a fun grunge song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was completely different multiple times. And then it ended up being the first single off the album, which is pretty fun too.
And this one was, lyrically again, this was like born out of, for the first ever time, probably just having to have a job. So like post-COVID, just having to get a job.
Yeah.
And just writing a like dissatisfied grunge song about it. Very meat potatoes.
It's pretty grunge.
Yeah, pretty primal. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Straightforward, really. And the thing that got me was having a half-hour lunch break. I was like, this is so inhumane.
Yeah.
I can't believe people are doing this. It's just that is not enough time to eat.
It's enough time to even like you reset from what it is you're doing and like get. Like it's ridiculous. It's the whole. Yeah. I'm very brave for saying this, but it's just it's just not good. It's not good, folks.
It's not good.
Again, such a brave truth telling going on right now, but Blame Me for Free is the next tune.
This one's like pretty personal in terms of the songwriting. I sort of wrote it for a friend who killed himself.
Oof.
Like a better way of saying that.
Yeah.
So personally, initially when we wrote it, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to actually like perform this live. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to sing this without just like breaking down. But now I can. We've played it multiple times and I can do it. Difficult one personally, but necessary. I don't know.
It's one of my favorite songs on the album, and I think also this friend, he came to all our first gigs as well. So he was like actually a part of the band for us. Like he was part of our beginning, and he was like there and very supportive and very on board. And it felt really great to be able to write this song to just kind of think about him and appreciate him.
Right.
And
celebrate.
And I'm really glad this song's on the album. I really love it. When Eddie showed me for the first time, I was like, oh, this is absolutely beautiful. And then I was like, let's just do heaps of harmonies on this. And
the music video is interesting. Rosa rotoscoped. So we shot a bunch of
like Scanner Darkly and what's that action movie? All that. Yeah. That's I always like that
hand painted frame. So we shot with a Handycam a bunch of footage in Melbourne and Berlin, and then Rosa like hand painted over the top, rotoscoped thousands.
Oh my god!
Of frames. It was a huge effort. If people have the time, you should go and watch the video because there's a lot of work that's gone into it, and I think it's a really beautiful video as well.
Just one of those mad ideas where you're like, I'm just going to do this.
This seems like a great idea, and then hours and hours later, like, what have I done? What have I done?
Also, I've never animated anything in my life. Like, I don't know why I thought I should do that, but I really wanted to try. And it just took so long. It was absurd. But I'm actually really glad that I did it. And I really, I'm happy. Yeah. But I don't think I'm going to do it again.
I mean, having seen that process in person and just how, how incredibly labor intensive it is, I was impressed. And I was like, oh, did they like have a team to do this? Oh, nope. Okay. All right. Okay. Respect. It's an insane thing to do, and well met. Tell me about Beats Nothing.
This is my favorite song to play live, or one of on the record. I really enjoy it. It just feels good. But weird, I don't know how to explain this. A weird thing with this song is when I was mixing it to test my mixes, because I had this really clear vision of making a music video for it that was slow motion motocross. I was like, slow mo
right. Okay. Yeah.
And like backflipping. I don't know why. Every time I listened to the song and every time I was working on it while mixing it, in my head was just slow-mo motocross. So whenever I would check the mixes, I would go on YouTube, find some really good slow-mo HD motocross video, put it on the big screen, and then check my mixes.
See how it sounded with it?
Oh, the guitar doesn't sound right while he's doing the backflip.
Right. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, and in the end, I had what I felt like was the right mix, and it was just all the guys coming around the corner, and it changes into the chorus. It was really working. Maybe one day in the future, when we have some money, we can shoot the video, because I tell you, it looks real good.
That's such a great process for mixing. I love that.
It makes no sense, but it makes sense at the time. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then you'd be like, no, do it slower.
Yeah.
jump that hill slower. Yeah. That's great. It's interesting too that you wrote the song to it. Yeah, that's a different way of doing it for sure.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Headless is the next tune.
This one's fun because Rosa wrote like the bones of the song, a lot of it, and all the vocals for me to sing.
Yeah, that was fun as well. Just seeing what kind of curveballs I can throw at you, basically.
Yeah.
And I've never had that before. I've never had someone write a song for me to sing. Like it was a really different process.
Yeah.
And enjoyable. And
yeah.
Like exciting and difficult and like all that stuff. It's still hard. I still find it hard to sing and play. It's quite challenging.
Yeah.
But it's totally one of my faves as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I kind of in the songwriting process, it's quite fun to like mess around with who you're writing for, or like it's just fun that we both sing leads.
Yeah.
So I've also not really been in the position before where I can just like write something for him to sing.
And have it obviously it's going to come out different too, right? Because it's
exactly.
You're going to pick things for him to do that he maybe wouldn't necessarily do himself. So that's
exactly.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
It's like, oh, there's a note there.
Yeah,
I didn't know there was a note there. You mean the chorus isn't just monotone?
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, and then when we took this to the studio as well, we was recording in Head Gap with our friend Rowan, and he just had all these really awesome instruments. So we made the demo, but then when we went in to record it properly, it was like we just kept adding instruments to like these melodies and just made them really like fun and big.
Yeah.
And just like kind of went turbo, did like a turbo elevator section.
Yeah, there's a xylophone duet in the
Yeah.
bridge, but we actually played it on at the same time on a big xylophone
True.
or mellotron.
Yeah, we were like next to each other. I think it was a
Trying to do it at time.
big xylophone, like a
Yeah.
huge xylophone, and we were just like playing the octaves together.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, people get really mad if you confuse that instrument with another instrument. Ask me how I know.
I know. Yeah.
All right, settled. I told him to start a blog about it, which I thought was pretty good.
It might have been a
Such a comeback.
vibraphone, actually. Might have been a
That's
vibraphone.
what I'm
It
saying.
was a
These,
vibraphone.
oh my god, the people that care about this kind of stuff, they get really into
They're
it.
going to be annoying so many people right now.
Oh, dear.
Their vocal
Shit.
community. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
you know,
dear.
I think you cannot possibly imagine how little I care about that. But okay, noted.
Well, we're gonna see if we can do a little printout and hang it on the fridge. You know, just,
Yeah, there you go. We can,
Yeah.
we
you
can
know,
have like
just
a
like the names of the different phones.
like a little picture and then like the name. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
To probably make those.
we'll
ones
strive to be better. Okay.
happen. Exactly. Their culture is not your costume.
yeah, exactly.
But
But it
in.
was English.
This was actually one of the first 5 singles we made that we ended up sitting on until the album. I recorded the guitar and vocals just myself, and then we added the synth, which Rosa played in Berlin in like 2019. So like 5 years earlier, and we just released it now. It's interesting. It's the synth that's on it is a Roland SH101, which I found while I was building a vinyl library for someone in Berlin. There's this guy in Berlin, he has this huge record collection. He has like 40,000 vinyls or something, one of the biggest collections
Wow.
in Germany. But his entire apartment was just filled like floor to ceiling with records, but also CDs, tapes, magazines, all this stuff. So I was in his apartment for weeks, like building shelves and then like, you know, helping him sort out his library. And under a stack of magazines in the corner of the room was this synth that I knew nothing about. And I was like, oh, what's this? And he's like, oh, it's this, I bought that new in 1981 and I've never played it or seen it since. Like it's just been under a stack of magazines for 40 something years.
Oh my god. That's crazy.
Yeah. Brand new. And I was like, he's like, you know, you can buy it. I was like, sure. Like, what do you want for it? He goes, give me 100 euros. I was like, sure. Gave him 100 euros, went home, Googled it. And I was like, this is like a highly sought after,
Right.
worth thousands of euros, vintage piece of gear, which sort of started our journey into synth world.
Yeah.
And it's
dangerous journey to begin on.
Yeah.
It's a long and winding road.
I was
I've
gonna
been
say,
picking up stacks of magazines ever since, and there's no sense under it.
many people have been lost on that journey to themselves and their loved ones.
Yeah.
Going deep.
Yeah.
It's fun though. If you can figure out how to make the damn thing make a good sound, it's fun.
And find
Just
it again
it can be a
afterwards.
journey. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's-
that's also tricky.
I've never had a problem with
man.
finding the good sounds. It's just like, wait, how did I do that? Oh no.
Yeah. So true.
Crap. How did I do that? Oh no, that's close. So that's not it. Terrible.
I think did we spend like a full year playing that thing before we ever did a YouTube tutorial and realized how it actually works?
Absolutely. just
That's
pushing
awesome.
buttons and stuff.
Yeah,
with no
exactly.
idea.
We
What
had no
happens when you
idea.
do
And then
this?
we were-
I don't know.
Exactly. And then after a year, we did a tutorial and we found out it's actually a keytar.
Yeah.
it even you can like do sequences. It's like
Yeah.
it's very awesome, and we slightly better at finding the sounds quicker now, but it's still an adventure.
Yeah. It's just like pushing the things.
Yeah, it's so sometimes the well, you'll never get that with a bunch of like patches, right? But it's like the fight to make the thing kind of comply to your wishes can be like half of the enjoyment of the sound sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's
Part of the fun.
not quite what I thought it was going to be, but that also was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we are.
Exactly.
First Light.
This song is the Kino Motel version of a song that I kind of like completed in a completely other iteration before we started playing together.
Mm-hmm.
I played it like solo with all these like harmonies, and it was very like sweet and soulful, and then I was like showed Eddie, and I was like, I kind of want to do this song. And he was like, let's fuck it up a lot. It's like way too nice right now. And I really love the result. It's something very like dark and grungy, and I would never have like arrived at that point without Eddie. And I really live for the guitar line and the choruses as well. Yeah, so it's something that turned from quite a sweet and soulful song into something kind of dark and little. I mean, it's quite true. And it's kind of true to the spirit of the song actually as well. It's this kind of.
It's a bit moodier.
It's a bit moodier, and life is moody, and that song is certainly moody.
Right. Life is moody. You're right about that. That's nothing wrong.
So moody.
Yeah. Nice. Anything beyond the moodiness on that one? First Light.
Just trying to think.
How did the arrangement change from how you had it before, or did it change?
It was a bit more like gospel-y or something.
It was a little more like soulful, and like I think and you also added, I think I was away and I came back and you just added this really cool synth section, which I really love as well.
Yes. Initially it was more soul harmonies, gospel harmonies.
And you added all these like grunge harmonies.
Yeah, because I heard the lyrics and I heard your main vocal line, and it just felt like a lot moodier than that to me. It felt like a different mood.
Yeah.
So while Rosa was like somewhere else, I just
it just got in there.
All these dark synths.
It was awesome. It's like a totally different song, and like a friend of mine who sang on it in the original version, like I sang it like at a solo live once, and she sang the harmonies with me. She did not recognize the song at all. It's like
so it had transformed that much then. Okay, nice.
Yeah, she didn't realize it was the same song. Like even all the melodies been kind of chopped up and changed and goes to different places, and the chords are different, and I love it. It's its whole own song now. It's
its own. It's taken its own life. It hasn't taken its own life. Jesus, it's taken on its own life as its own thing.
Yeah.
Queen Blue. Tell me about Queen Blue.
Queen Blue is really fun. It's Rosa. There's no drums. Rosa singing. It's quite epic, and it's got a lot of lap steel, but it's really mostly about the voice. But for the percussion, I think it was Rosa's idea. In the studio, Rosa was like, I want in the background, I want there to be some percussion that sounds like like bells, almost like jangly keys. And we're like, oh, why don't we just take our keys out of our pockets and just go into the
Jangle them.
Actually jangle the keys. Yeah.
yeah. And so the entire percussion section for the song is us with our keys just like
Shaking keys.
rising and falling. And when we did the album launch in Berlin this year, we had a nice crowd participation moment where we got some friends on stage and they got their keys out of their pockets, and we asked the entire audience to take their keys out of their pockets, and then the friends conducted the key orchestra, and it sounded amazing. It sounded so good.
It sounded so good.
That's awesome.
Was like these
I love it.
waves of, waves of shimmering jangles would come up, and then it was really good.
It was the most beautiful, rendition, just because of all the crowd just making all these beautiful jangles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was quite special. It was a really good moment.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah. That one's probably the most inspired by the singing of folk songs on some rainy cliff.
Sure. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. And that song kind of came up when I just kind of locked myself in a basement for a day and just played drones on a keyboard and just kind of almost meditated on some chords and just sang for hours. And then it just kind of came out of that. It was just this very spacey session of just singing over chords for ages, and then just this kind of melody kept coming up, and it was quite organic like that. Yeah,
I like it. Vibey. It's a vibe, right? So then we have a last song on the record, "Ran Right Through the Dead Land."
Yeah, this one's pretty personal as well. It's really difficult to do it live. We've managed a few times, but it's super hard.
It's very hard.
There's a lot going on.
It's another real soundtracky song.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
This one to me is movie Off Into the Desert could be the soundtrack.
I can hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the idea is it's difficult to explain sort of the concept of death, the idea of moving through life. The song is supposed to be about the feeling of moving through life and recognizing that other people have come and gone before you. It's very difficult to explain the concept in words. I know it in my head, but I have a hard time putting it out.
This is just treasure this moment, because this is the most I've ever heard Eddie explain his lyrics. So
I feel honored. Yeah. Awesome.
This is huge.
I trust you, Conan.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, and there's always, I feel like beginning a record and ending a record, those are very important decisions, right? How do you start? Mm-hmm. How do you end? Right. But I think that's a great closer. That seems like a lovely way to end, and it definitely a different side of the cinematic, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really love how at some point, Eddie kind of had this synth coming in and out.
Yeah.
Behind the song, and it was just so I think that just really makes the song this kind of swelling and disappearing and
kind of
and
ethereal almost in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a neat vibe.
There's a little bit of a trick there's a little bit of a trick to that synth as well because it's an arpeggiated like loop on the Roland SH101. It's this like loop setting, and then all the analog bizzo.
Yeah.
But the trick is that the synth is in 6/8, but the first half of the song is in 4/4. but then so the synth is sort of coming in and out and kind of in time and stuff because 6 and 4 works together.
It'll go in and out, in and out. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
exactly. And I felt like that worked with the theme and the idea of the lyrics and the song. But then halfway through the song cuts into 6/8, and then all of a sudden the synth just snaps into time. And so then,
it's almost like it's surprising, but also it's been happening the whole time too. But like it hits differently even though it's the same. Yeah, it's kind of a neat.
Yes,
I feel like was it Trans Am? There was a song that nobody's Ladio Balaco. I can't remember. There was a song that from another band that did that, and it made me think of that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a lovely way to bring someone to attention at a part. It's like,
I should listen to that.
I can't remember what it was.
Check that
See,
out.
now you're putting me on the spot. So I got to remember what it was. It was
You can text me later.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'll let you know what I think of it, but it's cool because it's not a lot of times people won't do that overlay of different time signatures in general just because it's a big pain in the ass, really, I suppose. But to switch them back
That's
around.
why it's tricky live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very tricky live because of that. It's a nightmare for the drummer because the drummer's trying to manage a backing track with an arpeggiated, like analog synth.
Just going in and out of like audibility.
And then they have to change time signatures.
Oh my god. Yeah, and as great as it sounds, as great as it works, it sounds like trash from the trash can if any part of that doesn't line up. It's just like oh no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's Visions. Kino Motel. KinoMotel.bandcamp.com. Killer, very, very vibey, cinematic album cover as well on this one. But,
cheers. Photo taken by a guy called R.C. Stills in Melbourne. Really good.
Okay. There you go.
Thanks for letting us talk about it for a
while.
while.
It's my pleasure. I was gonna say it took a really long time, but then I remember there's somebody that said on that we talked about for 4 years before they were on. So not that bad. Not that a few months isn't that bad. But I think it's an awesome record, and I hope that folks, I know it's a busy world out there, and this came out in the spring, but I hope folks, if they haven't already, will check it out. And I think it's a good one. I think there's a lot to love there, and I think it's definitely a great place for anybody that is new to the band to start off with as well. So, which is always nice. What's up in Kino Motel World? What are you guys doing? What do you got coming up? Anything?
We're in the middle of writing a new album. Okay. About halfway through. Really excited about the new songs. I feel like it's a development of the sound. And we're also currently in the middle of booking an Australian tour for February. So Lovely. If anyone in Oz, keep your eyes out because we'll be touring around Australia in Feb.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Until then, just sort of writing stuff, which is just so fun as well. I think we've been like, when you're in the touring phase, it's just like, it's all food for writing, and you're just like, you're doing stuff on stage and you're like, oh, I want to lean into this more, or I want to try that out. And it's just like, and now we're finally like back home with some amps and just kind of really going for it and enjoying.
Have you ever done the thing where you play something at like, sound check or something, right? And then you're just like, oh, wait, oh, that's awesome. And like, oh, I can't record that. Like, oh, I got to remember it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've totally done. I was like, God, oh, that's awesome. Oh, I can't do it.
Yeah, I have so many vague voice notes from going around on my phone, and I just put the date.
Yeah.
So I just like have heaps of dates, and then me just going,
Right.
and like later on, like just like, what does
What
that
is
mean?
this?
I
What
don't
is
know. At the time, I was like, I cannot forget this.
Got it. I just wrote the best song that I've ever written in my entire life. And you listen back, you're like,
Exactly.
I don't know what this is. What is this?
And at the time, I'm like, future me will thank me for this.
Right.
you know?
Yeah, that's right. Just like dislocating your shoulder, patting yourself on the back. Oh, yeah. Nailed it. Nailed it.
I've
Brilliant.
been like sifting through those today, actually. Like I've been like listening through all of these like very obscure vocal notes. One or two of them are cool.
Well, and that's,
You may
look,
see them.
even a blind chicken finds a kernel of corn now and again. You know, like if you get something out of it, aces. It's worth it. The juice is worth the squeeze in that point, you know?
I think that's my catchphrase of the year now. That's going to be my new thing.
With my blessing, please.
That's very good.
Even a blind chicken.
Listen, it's been great having both of you on, and I look forward to hearing whatever other new music you have, and you know, hopefully I get to see you play live someday. We'll see.
Hopefully.
And that would be lovely. Last thing, it's the only canned question I ever ask, and you can choose to interpret it however you like. I'm going to need answers from both of you, and it's going to be over to you first, Rosa. Why do you do what you do?
It just happens. There's not a lot of choice involved. And I just am really into I'm just making art and music, and it just happens even when I don't like choose for it to happen. It's more like a really expensive habit that is like, it's just like stressful. And if I could have been super into engineering, I probably would, but this is just what happens. And I also have come to realize that it has a lot of value. I think it's great to make things that aren't functional. They're just there as an expression of life. And sometimes your expression can just open a window for someone else who is to just like have a perspective on whatever's happening for them and help us make sense of all the confusion that's going on for everyone all the time, and just kind of crystallize the fact that you're just alive and feeling and doing stuff, and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, that's my answer.
Very good, Ed. Follow that.
Yeah. Even a blind chicken finds a kernel of corn.
Good man.
Yeah.
Stuck the landing. Appreciate that. Rosa, Ed, thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show. It's been lovely having you. And
Thanks for having us.
It's you
Thank
know,
you so much.
It won't be 4 years before I see you next, Ed. Don't worry.
Awesome.
We'll shorten that up a
Forward
little
to it.
bit. Yeah.
Excellent.
Take care, guys.
Cheers,
Take
Conan.
care.
You too.
Bye.
There they go. Kino Motel. Let's play out with Ran Right Through Dead Land. Well, there you go. That is Kino Motel. Ran right through Deadland. Off the record Visions. Great record. KinoMotel.bandcamp.com is probably your best place to get that. You can buy direct from them. Get it immediately. Awesome folks, this too. Really enjoyed having them on. Took way too long for me to do that, but there you go. Name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so very much for listening to it. This show airs usually Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific, streaming live, YouTube and Twitch. Podcasted later everywhere. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. For free. ProtonicReversal.com. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. But if you like the show and you want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal. We'll achieve that goal. Help support the show and helps keep the lights on. So deeply appreciate it for everyone that does that. Definitely get some sooner. We got quite the backlog right now. Thank you for folks for liking the shows, subscribing to your platform of choice, sharing around the internet. All that helps people discover it. It beats back the algorithm. So deeply appreciated folks doing that.
Anyone within the sound of my voice.
Steve Moriarty of the Gits up next. Jim Kimball, Laughing Hyenas, and Ghost Forest, and DK3 and Jesus Lizard Mule and stuff. Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends with God Bullies, Columbus, and Columbus, Ohio, and Louisville, Kentucky, and Dead Bob, and Lung, Turf Club, St. Paul, and Chicago, Cobra Lounge coming up. So come see Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends if you feel so inclined, or into those places. Anything else?
Turns sound into electricity.
I don't think so. Just thanks for listening. I always appreciate it.
Can you hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128, dark and lonely.
Check you later.
I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey, hey!